All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's do the roll call real quick. We got Chris Perry. Chris. Here. Dylan Irwin here. Debbie C. McBride here. Kyle Rogers here. Edward here. Okay. So, and myself, Daniel Burkhead. That's all the board members. We do have everyone here for that. We have several other guests in attendance today. The secretary, Darrell Bassett, his chief of staff. We have Ken Anderson of IT. Tyler, there he is, Tyler Kane, CFO. Robert, Tom, past board members, as well as attorneys for several other things going on. All right, so let's get started with this. First off, let's look at the agenda. Do need to approve of this agenda if I need a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Have a motion to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Dylan,
Yes,
you have the floor.
thank you, sir. I've got quite a bit to say here. I'm going to read this directly, so apologize if I'm not interacting. I appreciate everyone taking the time to hear what I have to say. I would like to acknowledge the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing Management Team, and going forward will be, I'll just say ADLL, the AHIRB board members and previous board members that are present today in person and on Zoom. My name is Dylan Irwin. I'm a licensed home inspector in the state of Arkansas. I serve as a board member on the Arkansas Home Inspector Registration Board, AHIRB. That. Ben, need you muted, sir. I was offered let's see here. So here we go. I'm a licensed home inspector in the state of Arkansas. I serve as a board member on the Arkansas Home Inspector Registration Board, AHIRB. I am a volunteer board member appointed by Governor Asa Hutchinson to represent Arkansas home inspectors and Arkansas home buyers and sellers, both residents and potential residents. I was offered a board position in August of 2021. I took the board position because I care. I have an investment in this board and I want to see positive outcomes, efficiency, and improvements. Quality home inspectors are needed in the state of Arkansas. Buyers and sellers, both resident and potential residents of Arkansas, need quality home inspections. A home inspection is one of the biggest decisions. Home purchase is one of the biggest decisions people will make in their life. Our goal as home inspectors is to provide an unbiased, thorough home inspection report that identifies deficiencies as well as educates clients on the structure and its components. Components, repair, replacement, maintenance, need to know, safety hazards, etc. After much frustration, I'm going to address ongoing problems we are having as a board. I address this only because we must see change as a board and our staff to have a healthy and successful outcome. This is how I see things. If I am wrong, I welcome someone to correct me after I've said what I need to say. I ask there be no interruptions during my address. I look forward to open, constructive dialogue after my address. I have brought documents that prove my points. I'll be glad to share everything if anybody needs a copy of what's in my collection of documents. Change is good. Improvement is better. Note, AHIRB was not without flaws prior to the new organizational structure change. Approximately 3 years ago, a legislative decision was made by Governor Hutchinson in our state government. This legislation places AHIRB underneath the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing in a new organizational chart change. I do not believe AHIRB was a part of the decision. I believe there is supposed to be efficiency and savings to the residents of Arkansas. I understand what they were trying to achieve with this bill. I think it could be it's a good thing for everyone. I do think if it works, I think it'd be great. Since we have adopted this new organizational structure, we as a board have not seen much improvement or savings. Again, we were not without flaws prior to becoming in this organizational structure. We have seen the opposites. We have been met with more problems and challenges underneath the new system. I think these problems and challenges are solvable if everyone understands and they care. Again, change is good, improvement is better. We all serve the people of Arkansas, both the Arkansas Home Inspector Registration Board, Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing. We all have declared mission and value statements. We are all held accountable to the residents of Arkansas. I believe everyone in this room is accountable to the people of Arkansas. I give this address for the sake of our board, administrator, and the people we serve. I hope what I have to say does not fall on deaf ears. I am not trying to be decisive. I truly want to see a positive outcome for all, and that's the truth. Current problems and complaints. What is the problem? I'm going to address two main issues. Things must change for us to fulfill our purpose. But the number one issue is fundamental core business operations. Lack of personnel, lack of respect from the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, lack of understanding from the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, lack of cooperation from Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, and Arkansas Department Licensing, Labor and Licensing hindering, not helping. Number two, lack of communications and transparency from Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing. I will defer this to any board member post my address. I will give the lion's share of the solution right now. Here it is. I'm requesting that the AHIRB formally acknowledge Ms. Charlotte London as our AHIRB director. As we had a title change, we went from administrator to director. A minimum director salary increase of $5,000 overdue, minimum. I'm also requesting we immediately pursue hiring one additional full-time office staff employee. I would imagine this would be around a $35,000 to $40,000 paid position. We need a larger, we may need a larger office space. We may need to increase renewals and or licensing fees to cover new administrative costs. I don't want to hear complaints. We must do what is necessary to fulfill our responsibilities. This is really non-debatable. Occasionally, sending in Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing staff members to help is not the solution. This is problematic. It's not going to work. There is and has been much frustration on the board's side of the administrator's side. Again, not everything is Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing's fault. I don't want anyone to feel that I'm pointing the finger of blame, because we have things that we need to address. There is and has been much frustration on the board side and the administrator's side. I believe the AHIRB board and staff are frustrated and tired. Things must change for us to handle our business effectively. I do not believe that anyone in this room is happy with the current situation we find ourselves. And that includes the point of view from Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing. I agree. I am talking about core operations, performance, and team play between AHIRB board, AHIRB administrator / director, and the ADLL management team. Failed communication, lack of caring or understanding, not sure which, and behavior. Checks, balances, and accountability are a two-way street. I do not think that ADLL has been happy with our performance on the operations end either. My thought is that since we have been behind on our operations, ADLL sees this as performance-related deficiencies with Charlotte. I think the frustration has led to the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing management team to put Charlotte on a tight leash and applying pressure in hopes of achieving improvements. Is this Charlotte's fault? I'm here to tell you it is not. I think we owe this woman an apology. Prior to coming underneath the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, Charlotte had a heavy workload. workload. She worked late and took home work to get the job done. She shouldn't have had to do this to begin with. Now, Charlotte's wings have been clipped by ADLL management telling her what to do and how to do it. More workload from all directions sitting at her desk, all the while ADLL management handing out poor employee reviews. If we need to expand on the wings being clipped, I can. If we need to talk about the late deposit, that's fine. Charlotte has been denied a raise citing deficiencies. I think she got like a $500 raise or something. I don't know for certain. She's underpaid. The board's review of Charlotte was excellent. Arkansas Department of Labor and License review was deficient. Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing doesn't seem to care, to understand or care about the situation she's in. We need ADLL management to be part of the solution and not the problem. This is not right, nor is it a healthy situation. I would not want Charlotte's position. The number is one person. Charlotte is a workhorse that is dedicated to her position. Charlotte does not sit behind a gold nameplate at a desk delegating out duties to a team of staff. She is the staff. Charlotte handles our business, our core business, the main things that have to get done for the reason that we exist. The day-to-day work that must get done for us to fulfill our mission and purpose. And let me tell you, I do not believe we could ask for a better person to fulfill her position. Is Charlotte perfect? No, but there's not a perfect room. There's not a perfect person in this room. When Charlotte is disrespected, demeaned, and talked down to by ADLL management, they are disrespecting, demeaning, and talking down to HRB, our board, and the people of Arkansas. I find this unacceptable. The internal control and compliance assessment from the Legislative Joint Audit Committee from over the years show that we had problems prior to the existence of Ms. Charlotte London as our administrator. Now we have more applicants, more home inspectors, which equals more work. And to top that off, now we have a new organizational structure that has added more work to the pile. I understand their work is important too, and I do not dismiss their role in this structure. I say again, unrealistic workload expectations for one person, positive team play, understanding, and action. There's unrealistic expectations of what one person can do. We have put Charlotte London in a position to fail, and this is not acceptable. We need one additional staff member to work with Charlotte as a team for us to achieve our goals, mission, and responsibility to the people of Arkansas in a timely fashion. We are getting further and further behind the 8 ball. When we whip the proverbial workhorse long enough and hard enough until she lays down on us, it's going to be sad singing and slow walking for everyone. I was really hoping that the new ELP licensing system would remove most of the paperwork handling. The ELP is a good thing. I look forward to using it. However, it appears that all those savings, the savings of processing time on the front end, it's saving time on the front end, but there is going to be additional work on the back end. I don't see ELP system as solving the staffing problem that we have. Just like the website, ELP is in the process of being rolled out. Tweaks, adjustments, and improvements will be needed. I defer to anyone else on the board on the lack of communication and transparency. Let's talk about some accomplishments here. We were asked to talk about accomplishments. Since I've been on the board, we fulfilled new applications, processing, and fulfilled new application processing and approval or denial. Fulfilled renewal application renewals processing. Answered, addressed, defined home inspector and real estate agent questions, ethical operational business. Further evaluated home inspector complaints for consumers, dismissal or hearing. Find, assessed as needed. Approved or denied home inspector training courses for educational providers for the betterment of Arkansas home inspector continuing education. Communication with new and existing home inspectors as needed. Moving forward with the ELP system. Let's go here to internal 2013. The internal control and compliance assessment Legislative Joint Auditing Committee, State Agencies of Financial Compliance Audit Section. The results of the finding, the agency had inadequate, they're talking about our board. The agency had inadequate controls over cash transactions because of insufficient segregation of duties due to a limited number of personnel. This happened prior to Charlotte London's ever existence. We had, this was an ongoing problem. We had one staff person. And I look at the, under this structure, we had the governor, then the board, then the executive director, which I guess that would be Charlotte's position. 2015, agency, again, from the internal audit assessment, prior to the transaction of us moving under the new structure, prior to Charlotte being in her position, here again, the agency had inadequate controls over cash transactions because of insufficient segregation of duties due to a limited number of personnel. Again, now we have more home inspectors, more applicants, a different structure that requires other duties as well. One person's not getting it. I don't think there's a person in the state of Arkansas that can handle it all with this one position. 2017, the findings, the agency had inadequate control over cash transactions because of insufficient segregations of duty due to a limited number of personnel. At this time, we recommend the agency segregate duties to the extent possible. Segregate them with who? I guess we're talking about board members, which we have all tried to help where we can. But again, as board members, we are volunteer members, and most of us do not live up here in this within close area. I look at 2018, finding Department of Administration and Finance Management. The agency had insufficient segregation of duties due to limited number of staff. One, i.e. one employee. We need the agency segregate the duties to the extent possible using board members as needed. We tried to do that. That was 2018. And there's nothing else before that or after that. I think, again, what I have to say today, I know it's being perceived as being divisive. It's not the intent. I see a train wreck coming. We're trying to keep the train on track, people. It's not fun. That's all I have to say.
I believe the secretary and chief financial officer are already here for specific questions from the board related to MOU for last meeting. You have those. Questioning paying and review, paying rent, and then rent went up, and we didn't know about it for 3 months, didn't know what it was going to be. In the last year, rent's gone up actually from $625 to $2,617 a month. And ask questions.
As a board, we're sitting here, and you'll see number 4, financials. December of 2020, incomplete. The year of 2021, incomplete. January through September 22nd, incomplete. We do not have, as we're told as a board, the information we need to finish these financials. Because the checks were taken by licensing and labor and made deposits. We do not have the information we need to complete all these. As a board and a board member, I feel that this is a direct slam on me, because I'm supposed to be sitting here and I make a motion each month. These are incomplete. We don't have information. Why can we not obtain information from 2020 to complete these? What is the holdup? From the rent and all the other stuff, that's ongoing. I think this is a direct slap on the board. And I would like to know how and why it cannot be taken care of yesterday. So, anybody has that answer?
May I sit?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity, the invitation to come and speak with you. And by the way, Mr. Irwin, I don't view your comments as divisive at all. I think I view those comments as the comments from a board member that's very concerned about the welfare of his division. And I respect that and I appreciate it. Believe it or not, I get those kind of comments from a number of board members. We have 29 different divisions. And so, no, I appreciate that because it gives us an opportunity when we know what you think, and I know what you think, it gives us an opportunity to address those issues. And we have been. It's an opportunity time for me to get an invitation to come to and address the board because we've had 2.5 years, almost going on 3 years of this experiment of transformation. And first of all, I want to thank the board and your cooperation over the last 2.5 years as we try this experiment, as we've gone through transformation and realizing the governor's objective, his goal was to create efficiencies and create transparency. And that's what we've been trying to do here during this last experiment. And we've been largely successful, but we've only been successful because we've had board members that are caring and that aren't afraid to call a spade and to really speak out. First of all, I just want, before I go farther, I want to address a number of those issues that you brought out during your comments. First of all, it is our job to facilitate effective operation of all of our divisions. And if we have a need to expand staff, if we need additional staff in order to get those jobs done, we're open to those suggestions. If they fit within your budget, if it's something that we can do, we want to be able to do that because it's in our best interest, as it is in your best interest, to see good results. And we've had increases in enrollments and renewals across the board with most of our divisions. We've actually gone through COVID, but yet we haven't seen a decline in requests for renewals and applications. People are inundated. You've got a unique situation where you have only one director. You have only a couple of situations here where we have one director. And I think there's only one of them, right? Ms. Black, I think she's the only single. Fire protection. Okay, fire protection. And so we have actually 3 instances where we have divisions that have only one director. And so I'm sensitive to what you're saying. The workload has expanded tremendously on those individuals. Some of them are in a position to hire more people. Some of them aren't. You're one of those entities that have the money, the resources to be able to do that. Some of the others just can't. They're going to have to deal with the one person. So if your suggestion is that we look into possibly making an additional hire for homeland inspectors, home inspectors, then I'm certainly open to that. And I'm going to charge Ms. Jocelyn with looking into that.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I think looking at the current numbers, it's gonna be pretty tight to hire the extra person with their current budget and everything. It's gonna be pushing. I truly feel if we need to try to figure out how we need to increase some of our fees by a small amount or whatever, I think it's necessary. And I know nobody wants, as a home inspector, to be included, I have to pay for that. I think if they truly understand the situation, I don't believe any of our inspectors or applicants would mind small amount. I mean, whatever we have to do to achieve this, we've got to get it done.
Well, Mr. Aaron, to speak to that point, I mean, that is something that when we came in, we did not want to raise fees for any of the applicants or any of the members. But there are extraordinary circumstances, and we've looked at these extraordinary circumstances. You've not had fee increases in over a decade. These are the kinds of things that the board needs to consider and consider the impact that it might have on your industry. But clearly, you've been operating under the same fee structure for more than a decade. You've not increased those fees. And at the same time, you've had an exponential increase in your applications. And so you're handling more, but you're dealing with the same fee structure. So I think it would be wholly appropriate for the board to consider a fee increase. Now, we would look at that in terms of how it fits within your budget, but I think that's a wholly appropriate suggestion for you to offer to us. I don't think it's divisive at all. Now, having said that, let me get into, and I'm going to turn it over to my CFO, and I've got my IT person to answer some specific questions with regard to ELP. But again, before I do that, I want to reinforce where we were coming from when we first did transformation. And I met with most of you at the Markham Street exit. I told you then, it wasn't going to be easy. Melding 29 different divisions into one was not going to be easy. But what I assured you of then, and I assure you of now, is that the policies and procedures that are in place that we're putting before you are ubiquitous. They're applied across the department, and they're applied equitably, and they're applied transparently. With regard to the financials that you need to complete your internal financials, that should not be a problem. It should not have been a problem. If it has been a problem, then I want to apologize for that, because the financials are done. We do them every month. They're in ACES now that we've gotten most of the divisions into ACES. It took us about 1.5 years to get everyone into ACES so that we had everyone on one accounting system. Gentlemen and ladies, if there are ladies on the board, one thing that we had to do a big challenge for us when we did transformation, and the governor was appreciative of this and sensitive to it, was that we had 29 different accounting systems and everybody was going in all different directions. What we had to do in order to create the kind of transparency that the governor insisted upon, and I know that you would insist upon as board members, was we needed to get everybody on one system. We need to get everyone into ACES. And I think we're there now. Are we not there? Do we not have all of the divisions into ACES finally? And so now those financials that you're looking for are actually there. And so it's just a question of a printout. And so I want to make sure that we get with you after this meeting to be able to supply you with those financials so that you can be sure of what you're doing as a board member.
So I've been on this board longer than anybody. And when this started in 2019, we were told this was all going to be transparent, this was all going, and we've heard this report now several times. We're going to do this, but nothing has changed. And that's the irritation, I guess, as the board right now that we're facing. We have not gotten transparency. We have not got the information we have requested. And after all this time, we still feel like we're not getting it. And I appreciate you coming, but we want to see something in paper in black and white that we can use as far as raising the home inspector licensing fees or whatever. Yeah, it's been that way for 10 years, but we have had enough to operate off of. Why in 20 or 21, when we made all these suggestions, why wasn't it brought up? We needed to do that. The board has never been against doing what we need to do to serve our home inspectors and the the state of Arkansas, the people we are charged to watch over. We've never been against that, but yet now we're talking raising fees, doing this or that. We haven't got any answers from 20 or 18, 19. That's our frustration, right?
Yes, sir, and I can appreciate that, and I appreciate your tenure on the board. I know that you are one of the longest serving board members on the board, so I appreciate that. The reason we've not addressed it is because we assume that, like we assumed with all of the other divisions, if you came over with one director, then we're going to operate with that one director concept. Your role, with all due respect, is when you see something that is no longer tenable, that you do what Mr. Irwin just did and say, hey, look, we got too much work here. We need to hire some more people. And if we can hire more people, if the budget will allow you to hire more people, then we can say, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to advertise these positions. If you come with a proposal that is financially untenable, then it's our responsibility to say to you as board members, that I don't see how we can get this done, but then to give you alternatives.
We have not received alternatives, so it's not even been brought up, and that's my point.
Well, it's going to be, sir, and with all due respect, it's going to be. This is the first invitation I've had to your board. It will be. You will get the financials so that you can complete these, whatever vacancies or voids you have in your internal financials. The financials themselves are out there for public view because they're in ACES. And so what if we need to make copies of those, we'll make copies of those. Please do so and get them copies so that they can do 20, 21, and 22. But it's out there for public view, and so we'll do that. Yes, Mr. Irwin.
I would like to acknowledge that, again, as I stated earlier, we did have some deficiencies prior to this change. I don't think that everything is ADLL's fault. Don't. But I think with the structure change and the increase, we were, and when she was able to take stuff home, and we made it work, okay? Might not have been said we made it work. But now when we made this change, there's also expectations by Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, which they have to do to build bigger picture, and I understand that. But with that, with this and the changes, it's really kind of in the way the balls roll. It's put there's a bold spotlight, and we've got a problem with the way things are, and it's not, it can't be on all this blame put on Charlotte's shoulders. I mean, again, it's not. That's not it.
Well, I appreciate that. When you came on board, I knew what divisions we were going to inherit, Mr. Irwin. I knew I was going to get 29 different entities. The first thing I charged my chief of staff with was to go back 5 years and get all of the legislative audits of all of those 29 entities so that I could study and so that I could see the financial condition of the divisions that I was inheriting. And so, yes, sir, I can appreciate the segregation of duties issue, which was primarily one of the main contentions that legislative audit had with your board prior to transformation. I looked at that. I didn't see that as a real problem. I saw that as something that we could manage. Because it's not just home inspectors. Those segregation of duties issues pervaded many of the other divisions as well. And so there are two things that you can do, two ways you can look at that. As I studied those reports, you can either try to hire more people, or you can then require the board to adopt some responsibilities, or you can use some existing staff to assist those divisions that are deficient with regard to segregation of duties. So what did I do? First of all, the last thing I wanted to do was start hiring more people, and I did not know exactly what the capabilities of the people would be that I was hiring. So last thing I was gonna do is start hiring people. Second thing is my boards, not just this board, but all the boards are volunteers. I think it's untenable for me to ask the board to do work that state employees are hired to do. So the plausible answer was to utilize existing people that were on staff to assist those directors where we had those segregation of duties issues. The problem I had with that, and it came up during the first legislative session, is that there was concern on the part of a number of legislators that we could not utilize these people who were not special revenue attached to them to actually do those functions. So we had that issue. Now, we found a way around that. And so that's where we are here. And we still have the issue because she still has the workload. We're not singling her out as no more than we're singling the other directors out. The fact is, they have more work because there are more applicants. And the only way that we can solve that is to utilize some of my finance staff, utilize some of my IT staff to come in and assist as it were, those directors, those three directors that are singular. Now, if there's a better way to approach it, I'm certainly open to any suggestion from the board, and we will employ it.
I think, from my understanding, that one of the problems with that is everything Charlotte does, not all of it is rocket science, okay? But there's certain things, system of which this is done. Now, some can say that argue the fact that Charlotte doesn't want to release control or share or communicate, whatever, but when you're paddling that fast and you're that far behind the 8 ball, bring someone in and muck things up and make it even worse, or to take the time to sit down and try to train them on doing this, she's getting further and further behind. Everybody's, and that's part of the problem. I don't think the long-term solution is, I mean, and I understand, I want, as a taxpayer, and our citizen, I want us to be as lean as possible. It's good. But I think in this given situation, I think we're too lean. We're just too lean.
Well, we probably are too lean, as the other two are too lean too. But again, as I say, Mr. Irwin, my only option is to utilize some of the existing staff to actually come and help those directors out with the mundane duties. Now, I'm not talking about the higher level responsibilities where she has direct responsibility to report to the board, but I'm talking about those lower level administrative pushing paper. We don't push paper.
Right.
There are those instances where we're pushing paper. Those instances tend to occupy, if you look at it, sir, those operations tend to occupy more time than the higher level. Just taking in paper, just making deposits, just chronicling. That's one of the issues that we have now with the audit, and not just with this board, but with at least one other, are receipt logs. These are mundane things, but they will get behind when you're dealing with the others. So I think that's an option that the board's going to have to consider to allow me to assist, in this case, Ms. London, with some of those mundane duties to absolve her of the responsibilities to have to do those and free her to be able to deal with some of the more higher level issues that you expect from her. I don't see another option but then to hire someone.
That's what I want to do.
Then we're talking about a budgetary issue, and we'll look at that. And I'm open to that. I am open to that.
But the reports for labor, like how many ink pens she's got on her desk, all this stuff on a weekly basis. All the reviews that the board's been given on Charlotte, she's not keeping up with this, she's not keeping up with that. But as a board, our applicants have been processed, all the stuff has been done. let's look at this, as you say, the mundane stuff from labor and licensing. What y'all are expecting from this office is board. Send somebody in to do that. I mean, that would give her a break, let her do her boards. What she was hired to do, and let her keep up with that, and then if she gets behind or she needs more help, have her request that.
Well, that's,
And not let that fall on deaf ears.
well, sir, it hasn't, and it hasn't, sir, and,
Well,
You know,
it's been ongoing since then.
well, no, it hasn't, actually, and with all due respect, no, it hasn't, sir. We're actually doing that. I have my finance staff going in and assisting her, trying to relieve her of some of these responsibilities. I don't know if it's been reported to you, but I have them coming in, assisting where they can. I have IT assisting. I've charged my chief of staff with the responsibility of making sure that these things are done. I think we're trying to offer that assistance. Now, of course, assistance comes with the willingness to accept it. And I do understand that Ms. London wants things perfect. She's worked with the board for a number of years. She's accustomed, she knows exactly what you need, and she's not comfortable or may not be comfortable with someone else actually doing that because she needs to oversee it to make sure it comes out to you correctly. Well, that's understandable. I like people that want that and have that kind of pride in their work. But there's a balance. There is a balance. The balance comes, okay, the board is frustrated. The board is saying they need this. They're not getting it. Okay. Our responsibility is to get to the board what the board needs. But it's also our responsibility to make sure that there are efficiencies going on in each of the divisions. And sometimes that is a friction point. Okay, sometimes it's a friction point, and you know what? That's why they call us managers, because that's when we need to get together and we need to meet with the directors and the staff of DOL and work out a solution. Okay, because we, at the end of the day, as a board and me as an administrator, we don't want excuses. We want results, and results that make sense to our constituency, which are the home inspectors and the people that we serve out there. I think we have a common goal, but as you said earlier, sir, and after, sometimes it comes down to communication. And sometimes if we're not communicating,
I agree with that statement very much.
if we're not communicating effectively, and if we're not communicating uniformly and consistently, sometimes we can have a difference of opinion, which is why I created the every Thursday meeting with the directors and any of the chairmen of the board members that want to zoom in on those meetings, because there are 29 of us. It's impossible for us to have these kind of meetings individually. That's why I have those meetings every Thursday, so that we can be transparent. So as we announce new issues that are coming out, whether it's ELP or whether we're going to do things different financially, or whether we're going to create a new inventory system, or whatever it is new that we're coming out with, in the interest of transparency, I've encouraged from the very beginning that all of the board members attend those meetings, at least by Zoom. And certainly the directors are required to be there. An additional requirement that we've had to assist in this transparency is weekly reports. I require each of the directors to submit to me a weekly report telling me, what are you doing? What are your problems? What are your concerns? So that we know, and the executive team can have a barometer of knowing exactly what is a problem out there, how we can assist the director, not just home inspectors. I'm talking in general. They all submit their weekly reports. And then on Tuesday, we have a meeting with the executive team, and we address the various issues that the directors have outlined in their reports. And then we attack them. Okay, we meet with the directors, we try to determine what's going on. Now, that's the process. And I think it's a workable process. I think it's something that's in keeping with what the governor wants us to do as far as transparency. But are we perfect? Absolutely not. We can't be. As Mr. Irwin aptly pointed out, there's no perfect scenario here, but we can do better, and we're needing to do better, and we will do better. Yes, sir.
Think of, I don't know, an analogy here. I don't know if you, I have a daughter that's 9. I'm sure most of y'all have kids. But if you've ever had a kid that is trying to help their mom or dad do something, and you turn around and you think, oh my gosh, what is going on? And they were trying to help you do something, but they've made a mess, a muck of everything. And I'm not saying that's Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing, but to bring somebody in as needed here and there, unless they understand, if they can figure out certain, where I'm going with this is, I don't see that having someone come in, unless they really figure out certain things and they understand how things work, I think that doesn't fully resolve the issue of the relief, because sometimes that relief, that help is not helping.
He's already addressed that.
Well,
They're gonna look at our budget, see if we can afford higher. That's what the CFO is gonna look at and see if we can do that. Then we can have somebody trained specifically for that. That's been addressed.
And this is not me, this is not talking about Charlotte. What I'm saying is, it doesn't mean that we hire a new person and that Charlotte needs to ride in the buggy and the new person pull the buggy. We're talking about Charlotte and the new person pull the buggy, the proverbial buggy.
well, I didn't think that way at all. No, sir, I didn't think that way at all. What I was thinking is that what we've been trying to do is offer assistance. She's the mason. What we're doing, she's the mason. She's building the building. And I'll use this analogy. You use one, and let me use this. She's the mason. But what she's doing right now is she's driving the truck. She's got the sandbags in the truck. She's dumping the sandbags out. She's putting water in. She's mixing the cement, and then she's carrying it to the wall, and she's laying the bricks. What I'm suggesting that we do, and what we've been trying to do, is have someone drive a truck with a sandbag, mix the cement, carry it to her, and then let her build a wall. Now, we don't know how to build a wall. We're not the expert. She should be. She should know more about home inspectors than any of us do, and she does. But getting to that point is very important. So if we're talking about cash receipts logs, if we're talking about deposits, if we're talking about doing any of those mundane responsibilities, that has nothing to do with the art of being a home inspector. She knows that art. My finance team knows the other part, because they know what the FNA is going to require of us. They know what the auditors are going to require of us. And so all we're suggesting and have been trying to implement here is a process by which we can furnish her the same so that she can build a wall.
I agree with that, but last thing I have to say on that is that Charlotte, she knows a lot about home inspectors, but in building this wall, that her core function, those core functions that we're getting into, that is the meat and potatoes of what she does. Now, of course, where she's going to get called in by potential home inspectors or complaints, I mean, all these things, we're getting phone calls. We have ADLL, we have the board, we have the meeting, we have all the stuff that goes with that. It's one person too much.
And change is good. Dylan brought out in there, change is good. And I know a lot of people don't like change, but it's good if it's changed in the right direction and for the right way. Now, I believe 100% that that's what this was set up to do, was change and make it a better operating system. We haven't changed with it. I'll agree. Some of us don't like it, but we need to work and everybody be on the same page for change.
I think working together, sir, we can make it happen. I'm convinced we can. I've said this to other boards, and we've had some similar comments from some of our other boards. And let me tell you, that's what they said, but let me tell you what they found. They found as we've worked together and we've disagreed and there have been disagreements over the last 2.5 years with me and the other board members. Let me tell you what they found. They found that once we get past the disagreements and we sit down, we're actually able to sit down and talk about what it is we're trying to accomplish. I think they've all seen the wisdom of transformation. And they've all certainly experienced the efficiencies that transformation creates. I just think we just need to get to that point where we can be open with one another, as Mr. Irwin certainly has been today, very candid, very open. And we need to be able to accept that from DLL because it's a valid concern, not intended to be divisive. But you as a board also need to be open to what we're suggesting and that we know has worked with other boards. Because we know that what we're encountering here with your division is not dissimilar from other situations we've encountered with other divisions, and we've been able to work this out. And so I think, again, communication is a two-way street. It's a two-way street.
Mr. Secretary, you mentioned that there's other boards within the Department of Labor and Licensing on one staff member.
Yeah.
Which ones are those?
But which one? That's right, but
Say that again. Athletic Commission, Licensing, Auctioneers Licensing Board.
Geology.
Geologists.
That's right.
Are they having some of the issues that you're having?
Well,
One staff member handling.
You're handling all, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, COVID didn't stop people from applying for licenses. They kept applying for licenses. And so, yes, they're dealing with them. And in many respects, to a larger degree than you are at home inspectors. Your licensee pool right now hovers around 425. We have, that's probably one of the smaller divisions in terms of licensees, but they all have similar issues. And the issues is that they're being inundated. They've got applications coming in. It's one person that's handling them. We've got one director that's actually handling two different divisions, geology and auctioneers. She actually has two different divisions. And so, yes, she's stressed. But that's why I say the situation isn't dissimilar. We're giving her that kind of assistance. We're coming in and we're helping her do her applications, helping her do her financial reports, helping her, because you see, here's the thing, the difference. Here's the problem, board, that all of these divisions had. When they came, there was a thing called the Service Bureau, and that was a DFNA. It handled everything. None of the boards had to handle anything. They had no responsibility for the finances, the financials, or anything. It was all handled by Service Bureau. Well, when transformation was created, Service Bureau went away. So the responsibility for all of the finances and keeping track of all of that Service Bureau used to do fell on the directors of these divisions. New responsibilities totally across the board for all 29. All 29 directors had to suddenly learn how to do this stuff and what the requirements were. It was traumatic for the first year or so because there was no Service Bureau. So we had to find a way to be the Service Bureau. We had to find a way to be the attorneys in some cases where the AG wasn't continue those responsibilities. But moreover, it was the financial piece that we were having to deal with, sir, that created the similar situations. But we're past that now for the bulk of these entities, with the exception of only a couple that are still in some financial distress. But they were in financial distress before we inherited them. Now our job is to try to preserve them and keep them afloat until they have some type of infusion of capital. But so that has been our test and our challenge. But we're on top of it, and I'm pleased to I'm pleased to note, we got budget hearings coming up next week. We have turned the corner largely with all of our boards. Now, we still have some issues. We have some supplemental findings. And I've asked each of the board chairmen to meet with me and the directors to discuss those findings, but no written findings. We were able to convince legislative audit to give us an opportunity to do better. And they agreed that they would do it, but they better not be there next time. We've gotten into a situation where they've come in and hit us and they found it again. And so we've got a reprieve right now. And so we're going to take advantage of this reprieve, and we're going to work with the boards and we're going to work with the directors and try to correct those problems. Some of those problems, as Mr. Irwin pointed out, have existed for a long time, and they revolve around segregation of duties. Okay?
Before. And not just before, Charlie.
But we've got to solve the problem.
Yeah, that's
Because,
right,
see,
that's
it doesn't eliminate the problem. We can say it was before, but right now they're holding us responsible for resolving the problem. And so we've got to resolve the problem. Either hiring someone else, putting additional help in where additional help is needed, or something else. Whatever that something else is, if you see something, an opportunity to do it, come to me with a suggestion, because trust me, I'm open to all suggestions from the board. Not just this board, but any board.
I want to say one last thing, and I've said enough. I personally, and I think everybody in this room on the board side, looks to work team play and see a positive outcome with your department.
We feel the same way, sir.
Well, that's what
I
we're
appreciate
trying
your
for as board members, when we accepted this, was to make this board run and make it the best it could for the people of our. That's what we're setting here for.
All right, any other questions for the secretary or the staff? Go ahead, you have something.
I was just looking at the invoice for our department for the rent for the suite 305 that Charlotte's in. In July, it was $625. In August, it's $2,617.
That was when, before we moved.
That was it.
Before we moved, oh, 2020, okay,
That was it.
right.
Part of the transformation was to be a cost saving experiment, as you called it earlier, experiment. Obviously, we're not beneficiaries of that cost saving part. So the question was brought up last month is how come stuff costs so much more now than it did before? That's the question that's asked. And that may not be anything you can answer. That may be a Mr. Tyler Kenny question.
Well, it changes. Let him answer.
Yeah. There's my friend. Things are more expensive because we are in the building that we're in, but transformation was never all about dollar savings. It was dollar savings, yes, we've saved dollars in certain areas, but what transformation was about, moreover, was creating efficiencies. And without a doubt, we've created those efficiencies. Have we seen some cost increases in some areas? We have. But whenever you're trying to create efficiencies, you're going to see that. You're going to see anomalies. And so we have some anomalies here or there. But overall, I think when you look at the totality of what we've been able to do here, they're having savings, and we have definitely created efficiencies. And we're going to continue to create more efficiencies as we see the onboarding with the LP, as we see the continued assistance that we're giving to Ms. Charlotte with regard to your particular board. We're going to see positives. I firmly believe that.
Here's an anomaly that the board is wanting to know about. July 2021, actually, we were in this building, rent $820.54. August this year, 2022, $2,617. Quite an increase.
Well, we had an increase overall when we knew when we moved into this building from Markham Street out there. We were at Markham when we first came in. We knew that we were going to get a window of grace in this building, but we also knew that there was going to be a rent increase in 3 years, 2.5 years. We knew that. We were told that. In fact, we told all the boards that. We sent a blast out that we were going to have this increase. And so it is what it is. I mean, we just have an increase in rent, and that's just where we are. Now, what I did do is I recognized that we had some entities that were smaller. And so I fixed, and Mr. Kane can elaborate on that. You want to? Yes, yes. Right. Well, I think he knows we're doing quarterly. The rent was quarterly, not monthly. Doesn't he know that's quarterly? That's a quarterly number. That's a quarterly.
Well, this says August, it doesn't say quarterly. If you look at this is monthly.
Yes, understood.
And that's what.
Well, you're gonna get an increase. I'm not sure of what you're looking at. I don't see it, but we do bill you on a quarterly basis. Mr. Kane, you probably need to come up and look at this.
Look at that and then tell me it says quarterly.
It's August. It says August rent.
Yes, sir. And it's the way you pay the bill. The bill comes to us on a quarterly basis and we charge it back to rent on a quarterly basis based on what was paid.
Okay.
And that's what's happening here. It needs to be, we will make corrections to that for the quarterly.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is communicate effectively here. We're built, I see now what you're looking at. We're billed on a quarterly basis. So that's a quarterly figure. But what we need to do is be transparent. We need to have that as a quarterly rent. Note that it's a quarterly charge. Okay? Because if they have that question, someone else may have that question. Okay?
And that is the main reason, that's what started our last meeting last month and why the board actually voted not to do it, because we saw the rent had gone up 126%.
Well, it's gone up a little bit. You probably have about $16 worth of it.
15.
Yeah, you probably do. But no, that's a quarter.
Okay, so now you see our concern.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Goes back to-
Absolutely. Well, a good document needs to be a good document. It needs to say quarterly. Absolutely. Well, I see why you guys were doing what you were doing last time. The meeting was taped.
Now you understand. I saw, you could hear the frustration.
That's why my security was outside. No, I see. No, that is inaccurate. Now, everyone did get an increase. But it was about $15, $16 for you. And then I froze your figure for another 2 years. So you won't see any increase because we just were able to do that within our construct of our budget. But no, that's a quarterly figure.
Okay. Any other questions for Secretary?
That's better. That's better.
Any other questions for the executive staff at all from the board or?
I would like to have on record, as we're recording this, when can we get this financial taken care of and get it off?
He'll get those numbers to Miss Charlotte today by close of business.
So by next month,
We'll have them.
we will have that, and I won't have to make a motion to accept incomplete.
He will get those to her by close of business today.
And will Ms. Charlotte have time to reconcile this before next week?
Well, they're already reconciled in ACES. I mean, ACES is our financial system of record.
After I meet with the secretary regarding the findings, I'll get with Charlotte and we'll make sure. We'll find it. Okay.
We'll just copy the ACES. I mean, ACES is the state's financial record. That's our record.
That's the end all.
That's the record.
And that's what looks, we keep saying incomplete. And as a board, we need to have an answer to incomplete.
But it's complete as far as we're concerned. But what you haven't gotten, I get you, sir. Well, it's complete as far as we're concerned. But what you haven't gotten is copies of ACES, and that's the report that we need to get you. And we'll get those to her by close of business today so that you'll know what those numbers are and the board will know.
Anything else?
Is that good?
Right.
Is that good, sir?
Thank you.
That says.
Yes, I just, like I said, I've been making that motion for a while.
Well, it looks bad to me too when I see it incomplete, when I know, I look at the ACES reports every month and I know they're not incomplete, but we'll get those to
It
you.
goes back to the communication.
Yeah, we'll get those to her and then she can get those to you.
Yes, sir, third thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry, can I go ahead and have a seat up here?
Yes, yeah, sure, sure.
I can sit here next to Charlotte. Thank you, board, for allowing me a little bit of time here. I just want to start out that Secretary Bissett, I remember a meeting with you quite some time ago, several years ago, and you told me, just call me Daryl, that I respect your position, I respect your authority. As such, I prefer to Secretary Bissett. This isn't the first time that, we've had a meeting or talked about anything here. But just a little bit of history, and I understand that everybody's time here is important, so I will try to get to the point as much as possible while still leaving the important details in. So I served on the board for 3 terms. During that time, I saw 3 different board administrators, and I use that term board administrator, not director, for a reason, and it's not disrespectful, and I'll get into that here in a second. By far, Charlotte has been the best administrative assistant this board has had in the time that I've been here, and I appreciate the work that she does. So a little bit about the title. With the help of, I think it was Department of Finance and Administration, whenever the job was advertised that she currently occupies, we went through great pains to make sure that the job title matched the job duties. And as such, the salary reflects the job duties. And that was to make sure that we didn't have board director listed in there. It was, I think, we can look at the information, but something like board assistant or administrative assistant, something of that nature. As such, we didn't expect her to assume the duties of a director. Under the guidance of a previous legislative audit, on January 21st, 2016, at a board meeting, it was recommended to us to, as part of accountability, to limit the amount to be spent by the administrator without board approval. And to the best of my recollection, and from what I know, that rule has not been voted down or overridden since from the board. And at that time, it was the board administrator could spend $0 to $250 without board permission on board-related activities and materials. Anything from $251 to $500 must have either the treasurer's or the chairman's approval prior to the money being spent. And anything $500 and up would need the entire board's vote, which would require a board meeting, a public hearing, which of course has at least 3 business days notice, which this board does a good job. Whenever I first came on, the meetings were probably every 3 or 2 to 3 months, and now it's monthly with the amount of workload that's been out there and the amount of catch up this board's had to do over the years. And so I appreciate the work that everybody does here. But to the point is that many times Charlotte has been asked or has been sent memorandum of understandings where, and here's just one of them, I'll just pass that to you, where it has her listed as executive director, and she's been put under the pressure to sign for things, and I'll just pass the whole thing. Or that's, looks like to me, that's over $6,000 at a time, and she just doesn't have that authority from the board. And so she wasn't hired as an executive director. She's not an executive director. If y'all want her to become an executive director, I think that the salary should reflect that, and so should the training and her duties.
I second that.
And so I think that if she's going to be an executive director, we could talk a little bit about salary. As I mentioned, this isn't the first time we've met Secretary. I believe it was either February 2020 or February 2021. I sat in a room with you and point blank you were asked, on salary increases and where does the buck stop? And you told me, very matter of fact, the buck stops here. And I believe that's my recollection. My recollection's not perfect, but I believe that's what was said. There was a performance issue that was brought up at that time about weekly reports weren't being filed in a timely manner. I said, okay, or I think it was stated that, is there anything else? Like, that's the big hurdle between her and a step increase. And I don't know the terminology, I'm not an accountant, but I believe that it was a step increase on the type of salary range that was mentioned at that time. I followed up with that after I felt that Charlotte had been filing the weekly reports on time, and I actually emailed directly to you at your steve.gunthorpe@arkansas.gov email address. And I touched base on a couple of things, and I asked if her previous deficiency had been addressed. And that was on May 5th of 2021, and I didn't hear back. Actually, that was in March, but I reached out to Mr. Steve Gunthorpe in May of 2021, and I just said, hey, I want to touch base on a few things. I've sent this previously to Secretary Bissett. I haven't heard back. What's the status of this? Because there were some other issues that hadn't been addressed from ADLL, which was a lock that didn't work on the door that'd been ongoing for months, that we couldn't lock our records up. And I also asked at that time about, I'll just read you a quote. The Arkansas Home Inspector Registration Board has questions on financial duties and responsibilities as they pertain to shared services and other items. Who is the appropriate party to contact to direct these questions to? And if possible, could they possibly attend a future AHIM meeting to help explain things? I was told by Mr. Gunthorpe at that time that Tyler Kane is our new CFO. I've CC'd him on this email, and I'll have him reach out to you. I never heard back. So like I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying there's a communication problem that needs to be fixed. I tried to reach out to you. I didn't hear back until I reached out to Mr. Gunthorpe. Mr. Gunthorpe was the person that told me in the email in regards to those weekly reports. He said, yes, Miss London has been doing an excellent job of submitting her weekly reports. It wasn't, she's been sending them in, she's been meeting standards. He said she's been doing an excellent job of submitting the weekly reports. That was the hurdle for the step increase that we were told.
That was one of them. There were other factors.
That was the one that we were told at that meeting.
Single
Yes, sir.
issue
We don't
in
want.
that meeting.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, we're about to get into a personnel discussion, and we can't have a personnel discussion in a full board meeting. This is broadcast publicly. We can't, I can listen.
This
to
is
you,
an email that's voidable.
Okay,
It's-
yeah,
it's
you
public has
can't,
access to.
but we're about to have a discussion. We can hear it, but we can't discuss it.
Okay, then I'll just make that as a statement, is we were told that was one issue. I felt it was addressed. Now, I understand that you can't comment on it because it's a personnel
I
issue.
can, after with the meeting with you later, but not a personnel issue.
So I'm not gonna ask you to overstep or cause any problems with public meetings and personnel records. I respect that. And so I've said what I need to say on that one. But I still want to say that we have reached out before to your office,
I'm aware of that, sir. I'm aware.
And so it's not the first time that we've talked about
No,
this.
sir. No, sir, it is.
Now, everybody here has work duties, our home inspectors, everybody is here is probably losing income to be here.
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
your life, come up here on the highway.
So hold on, let me finish, sir. And so with that said, you have mentioned that every Thursday, there's a staff meeting. Or there's a, director's meeting. When I was the chairman of the board, I actually set time aside for that until there were multiple of those. There were more of those that were canceled last minute than there were those that were actually attended. As a home inspector, I don't know about y'all, but when you're busy, you're not waiting on a phone call to go do an inspection tomorrow. You're having to arrange with the real estate agent, with the buyer, with the seller, and other parties that are involved. So you're not looking at doing an inspection tomorrow when you get a phone call. Oftentimes, you're looking at scheduling an inspection 5-6 business days out. If I schedule a home inspection on a day that I'm supposed to have a meeting, and then on Wednesday, when I schedule it out several business days away, and then on Wednesday, before the meeting, the day before, there's a cancellation, I just take $300, $350, $400, whatever the inspection fee is, and lost the morning. And so I think there's a lot of sacrifices that the board members make, so I don't want that to fall on deaf ears.
Well, there are. I'm sensitive to that.
So,
I don't like canceling meetings either, but I have, I'm secretary, but I have losses as well, and the legislature is one of those losses, and so I hate to cancel meetings, but I do appreciate the inconvenience that cancellations create for private citizens, and I apologize for those.
Well, and just a few more things, and I'll try to be concise. We've talked about other boards that have a single staff member, and I believe part of what being an intelligent person is knowing what you know and also knowing what you don't know. And I try not to overspeak. Sometimes I probably do. And one thing that I don't know that I'll admit that I'm ignorant on is I would like to ask, are these other boards, and I have a couple of things here, but are these other boards, do they have the same CE or continuing education and pre-registration requirements as this board does? So I think if we're going to compare, them, we need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. I don't want to see this board come into a rubber stamp agency where the bar that's set is doesn't check clear, to get a license. And so sometimes I say things that are unpopular, and I'd much rather, I'm a passionate person. I'd much rather talk to people that are also passionate, that are willing to butt heads and willing to, find a middle ground and willing to talk about things rather than someone's just going to sit there and, nod their head and go along. I think everybody here is here because they're passionate about what they do. With that in mind, we've talked about, today there's been some preliminary talk about fee increase and, number of home inspectors. I challenge anybody here, because I've asked this question many times and I've never had an answer contrary to this, and I hope today is the first time, but I challenge anybody here to name me another profession other than home inspectors and appraisers, where someone else hires the person that goes into your home while you're not there and has intimate access to your house. And I would even argue, and no offense to any appraisers here, and if you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I would argue that as a home inspector, you're there longer and you're also there looking more closely and have more unfettered access to someone's house. And this is someone that you didn't pick to be in your home. This is someone that the buyer picked. And so with that in mind, I would ask, there was a time when I came on the board that, when there was 200 applicants, we were floating along and that was about normal. When it got 225, 250, it was getting to where it was overcrowded and there was a lot of turnover. And I think there's still a lot of turnover. And with that in mind, there was a time when we needed home inspectors, in larger numbers. It was a growing profession, but I ask now is if it's a growing profession and we have the numbers, rather than just trying to create a larger revolving door and getting more people in and getting more licensing, why don't we actually make home inspectors more prepared and more educated? Because I can speak from experience. You can become a home inspector and know just enough to be very dangerous. I didn't appreciate it for that reason. And there's a lot of people that fail becoming a home inspector because there's not an apprenticeship program that's adequate to address these things. And so I would just throw out there, just spitballing that rather than saying, hey, let's increase fees on home inspectors, how about let's focus on, rather than having paperwork, it's closer to 500 home inspectors right now. And the budget's the same for having 500 as it was when we had 200. Rather than creating more administrative work and just creating more home inspectors for the sake of licensing people, why don't we make more responsible, better, more full-time home inspectors? And so I'll just throw that out there as a possible solution. It might not be popular, but as someone that's hearing fee increase, I'd rather hear better inspectors than more fees.
How would you propose that?
In 2018, I proposed to the board that was voted on and approved, and 2 members that voted on it, was an apprenticeship service that we would do through the board. And since 2018, the board has not been allowed to do that because legislature had too much work to do for us to turn it in because there was a thing coming about they were going to put us all under one blanket, and then when all that got done, then we could make application for apprentice program. 2018, it has not been a paper term for us an apprentice program. And I can say that because I was the one that put it in, and 2 of the other guys that voted on it are sitting.
And so with that, that's sometimes I say unpopular things, but I speak from the heart and I tell you what I think. And I do appreciate y'all giving me some time today to speak. And Secretary said, I do appreciate your time and I appreciate you coming here today.
I appreciate it. I don't know that we got your name for the recording.
It's Robert Neal, former chairman of Arkansas Home Inspector Registration Board.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Anything, anyone have anybody have anything else?
I'd like to amen what Robert just said and enter two additional comments. My name is Tom Allen. I was a board member and vice chair of the board. I attended the meeting that Robert was talking about where we visited with the staff and the secretary regarding a step increase for Charlotte. I managed 179 federal employees for a great long time. I know the difference between a step increase and these little incremental increases that they get at the end of the year. I was very specific when I asked for a step increase. We were told that all we had to do was get that single weekly report into Steve on time. You heard the response Steve gave, an excellent job. And then it turns out from the secretary's mouth, we're going to do this little incremental increase to it for. So that's one. Secondly, you all, a lot of you people are new on the board. One of the things that we wind up losing as we lose history with the board as senior members move off the board. And one of the things I tried to do was communicate to our new board chairman one afternoon all of these issues that Dylan has brought out so well today and a few more. And I asked the board's permission in that meeting to have a private discussion with the board chairman regarding those issues. We knew what they were. They haven't changed. They're the same issues then as are now. I have about a 45-minute drive from here to my home. I did not get out of my automobile until I was replaced on the board. Magic. So one of the ways of dealing with problems is to shove them away. Sometimes they don't go away. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Chris?
Yes.
Good. You're done, okay. Mr. Secretary, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
I understand, thank you. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break, start recording, and then we'll start back in 5 minutes. Order, go ahead. And we're recording. All right. Back to our agenda. Number 3, anyone? All right, before we get to ELP, Ken, I want you to hold off just for a minute.
Yes.
And before we get down to financial, we'll address that as well. The last board meeting, we discussed, we all voted on having Tom follow up with the revolving door concept. There's a $10,000 budget for that. It was brought up that in order for UAR to finish the research, I guess they need to be funded, correct?
It's been so long since we actually talked with them. We really need to go back and see.
Can you do that?
I'll be happy to.
Okay. Can you report back to the board next month?
I will try.
Okay, or you can shoot email to Charlotte, she can disperse it to us as well, but know that money has been set aside for that. Okay, so we got that.
Thank you.
I want to be sure we do follow up with it. Okay.
I'll be in for the week.
Just come here, see. You gotta have something to turn in. Let's see.
One other thing, going back to that, Tom, have you seen the non-renewal or the last home inspector's license letter? No.
Not yet, he has not.
That's the
So this is, so just so Robert, the public viewers listening, this is something that the board put together a month or two ago regarding, actually, somebody give me that, no, Robert. I can share it. That's right. Yeah. So we kind of put this together, drafted it up, people that are no longer renewing their licenses or letting license lapse. Our main question is why? Is there something that could be improved to keep you in the industry? Does that make sense?
Are they still in the industry?
I think it's a great.
It's kind of a stepping stone for what you're working on. That's what we're gonna find out. So that's just one step that we're gonna be able to do from our end. Okay?
I'm sure there's a bunch of builders still here.
But that's information that we are trying to.
We're trying to accrue, get some more own information as well, so.
Have we had any responses?
Whatever, we have a letter out. Actually, we're voting on a letter here in a few minutes. We're gonna
Okay.
hear that and we'll go.
I want to talk to know.
Okay. Got anything else for Mr. Allen? Or Mr. Nick?
Thank you, guys.
Gentlemen, appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Good luck and Godspeed.
Stay in touch.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, moving on to ELP. Ken Anderson's here, he's the Director of IT. ELP, of course, we rolled out for the new applicants back in August. This is the first full month we've had applicants take advantage of that. I think there's 4 or 5. There has been some issues. I think we've kind of worked through some of those right now. Who all has been able to log on? That's the question. So y'all, you two have not been able to log on. You logged on.
I logged on.
Okay. Chris, were you able to log on?
Chris.
Okay.
I think I logged on.
Okay. I know I logged on. I
I
actually
did, and it was just.
rejected for reapproval when it, yeah, so I know what mine works.
Okay.
So explain how that works,
Yes.
as far as getting access and how it's time limited.
Yes, sir. So when I create your account, you've got 24 hours to activate the account with the temporary password that gets emailed to you. The moment you put that temporary password in, it asks you for a new one of your choice. Once you do that, you're activated, you can log in at any time. Now, one of the keys to it, could you go back one screen and share that screen, Elysia? Or just go to arkansas.lnp. One of the common mistakes that we see after you have activated your account is a lot of times you'll try to log in using that activated account under the constituent spot. You always want to make sure and choose the agency login. So if you're on this page up there in the right-hand corner where it says agency login, that's where you would go instead of the account login. That is after you have activated your first time. So if you successfully activated and then for some reason you can't log in again, that's probably the reason. Now, a second point that I do want to bring up to everyone here that I'm doing these accounts for, if you hold a home inspector license, do not go in and create a constituent account, because your account will be created for your home inspector license on data migration. And you're going to get another email for that account, which is what you use to manage your license with. The account I'm creating for you now is what you use to manage the back end side. So to view applicants, to approve applicants, that's what this account's for.
So once everything is set up and we have the renewals active, you're gonna have 2 accounts because you're recorded.
Yes,
Edward, in your case.
just right.
And WC in your case.
So just keep that clear. You're gonna have to know which hat you wear. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. That's just 2 key data points I want to point out to. Now, I have seen, it looks like about 15 applicants is what I saw total since we launched that have successfully been approved and reviewed. So that's excellent. I want to thank Charlotte and the board for staying caught up on that process. And what I would ask from the board is, as we work through this, If you have suggestions, send them to Charlotte, and then Charlotte will get back with me, and I'll get with the ELP team, and we'll refine this further on as we go. Yes,
You resend the new password.
Yes.
Actually, yes, I was gonna tell, those of you that do not have a password, cannot log in, email Ken and have him send you that, okay?
I will do that today, as soon as I get an email from you, and just keep in mind, you've got 24 hours to activate when that comes to you, so be sure.
What's your email address?
Ken, Ken.Anderson, and that's with an O-N, @arkansas.gov. I was aware of Mr. McBride not being able to, and he was the only one that I was aware of. So everyone else, if you are having an issue after trying that other agency login, let me know. Basically, if you've never been able to activate, you're not going to be able to.
One has 24 hours. for the
Yeah.
first, so-
Yeah. So your new username that I'll create, and what you'll look for, it'll be your first name dot last name with the number 1 behind it @ar.prd.ahirb.
You'll get it.
You'll get it. Yeah, it'll come to you. You won't have to remember that. I did leave a little handout this morning that just showed you how if you were going to claim a task, you know, what you do and what to expect in it. Most of you will be reviewing submissions and then taking your notes, making sure that, you know, everything looks good on your end. And I think you all vote together as a board when you come back together, and then Charlotte will actually move it through. So, I appreciate everyone's interest in this. It's a great platform. It's running now. Y'all are the 4th ones to have it up and running. And I'm actually launching 5 more units at the end of this month. So we're going to have a total of 9 entities in place by the end of this month. And I'll have a total of 12 in place by the end of the year.
Question.
Yes.
So is there a way, so ELP, once we make this transition, say, let's just say in the next year or 2, everybody's on it, we've got all the little kinks worked out and everything, is that data gonna be able to be pulled from the inspectors for the website search? Is there some way we can make that happen?
Yes, you're actually going to go on our website, the master website right now of ADLL. There's a roster search, and the 3 entities that have actual licensees on the platform right now,
You can search.
you can search. So y'all will show up under it. You did have one requirement that I have confirmed is going to be done, and that's whenever you do a search, it's going to pull it up random unless you actually start filtering it down by a license number or a specific city and last name.
Now, that's not gonna be active until migration takes place.
Correct.
Right now, it doesn't know those.
Yeah.
Do we know when migration is taking place?
Migration is underway
It's
now.
underway now.
Yeah, and the migration should be completed sometime next week.
Okay. So hopefully that will come up. But yes, it does do it randomly now. We've got to do it as best we have. I agree.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's best we have for the moment. It's gonna get better.
right,
We'll work on
right. It'll show up around.
it.
Ken, we appreciate you.
Yes, thank y'all.
Anybody have anything else for Ken?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
One thing, when I do, task 1, and then it goes to when Daniel does his, the system is automatically generating license numbers.
Mhm.
And it's like these 4 that we had, well, 3 out of the 4. This month, they had their license numbers and they had printed them because they thought everything was good and they could be a home inspector. And I had to go in and put all of them as inactive, and then they started calling me.
Mhm.
And I told them why I did it, because they hadn't been approved yet. But is there any kind of way to?
So.
yeah, so what we need to do, your approval doesn't take place until after the board meeting.
Okay.
And that will prevent that, because the license number will get generated the moment your approval takes place.
Is that only me, or is that for step 2?
Step 2.
Okay, so anybody that does step 2, they're automatically approved.
That's right. So we need to make sure that task one is essentially saying, we're bringing it, you've gotten all the stuff's there and it can come before the board.
Right.
Then after your board meeting, task two would be done at that point in time.
But you're the only one doing that.
Yeah, I think it gets
Everybody
assigned to
else will
you.
Only be able to just
Okay.
review.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think I gave him I gave Justin a list. 3 of them I had assigned to task 1, I can't remember who I assigned, and then 3 of us I had assigned to task 2. And the only reason I've done that is because if we have multiple 10, 15, instead of relying on me to go in there personally and do every one of them, that splits it up between the board members. So, all right,
Yeah, if we
so
just,
after the board meeting is when step 2 needs to be.
it could be, yeah, the approval, because once that final approval takes place, the license is generated. And and if the board has any reservations on someone, then you can reject the resubmission at that point.
I did do that.
I did see one of them.
I did that.
Yes.
He
And I
didn't
saw
get
he
my-
hasn't,
And
responded.
I think you got an email back from it, actually. I think you sent an email, say it's been rejected for resubmission. I think you submitted the stuff, and that how it's going. It's going back.
Good deal.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
As always, if you need any IT issues, just give us a call.
Well, I think everything's gonna be really positive. I understand that it's gonna take a little while for us to learn it. If there's any bugs, get it ironed out. I mean, it's not, we're not expecting perfection tomorrow.
And that's just like you called me with some of the website issues.
Will you be back?
Thanks, man.
Uh-huh. See you. Thank you.
I'm just gonna add the names of this meeting.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Well, that was fast.
Shortest chairmanship ever.
That's right.
How did it feel?
A whole 5 seconds.
Okay, good. All right, so let's go to item number 3 here, approval of minutes for the previous board meetings. We have May, June, July, August, September. These are all incomplete at the moment. Charlotte's been doing the ELP. We're trying to get stuff going. Several of these should probably be caught up maybe by next board meeting. Okay, that's the plan. So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Have a motion that we table these till next month's meeting. Have a second by Kyle. Any discussion? No. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to financials. Let's talk about financials for just a second.
Make a motion.
Nope.
I gotta know. So we
Go ahead, you make a motion. What was your motion?
I gotta make a motion, we accept or reject, so you can talk about
Okay, motion.
it.
What's
Make
your,
a motion, we accept these incomplete.
okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Dylan. Any discussion? Okay, so talking with Tyler Kane, the CFO, all of financials go through ACES, and they have for the last 2.5 years now. Everything now is consolidated into ACES. What you have in front of you here is our financials. This is actually from July 1st of 2022 to August 3rd. Our financials are complete. They are consolidated. Okay, we had these listed on here because we weren't 100% sure. Tyler's actually printed something off for me and Charlotte right now. He's gonna explain this a little bit more. What Charlotte was looking for was kind of, it was the O system, okay? It's not ACES. Everything ACES is current up to date. Does that make sense? So with that being said, would you want to modify your, or change your motion to accept these as complete?
Not until we get a print out of the wood. I'm saying on the
Individual minutes.
the next board meeting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got you. We can do that. Show us. Charlotte and I will talk about that anyway. Yes, it'll be on the minutes as being complete. on the agenda. All right. Any other discussion regarding that? All in favor of tabling these until next month? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to status complaints. Joe, I hadn't said hi to you today.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
So glad you're here.
Hello, friends. How are y'all?
It's your ball.
Thank you. Complaint. You see old complaint 2203-31. Y'all recall you gave preliminary approval of the consent agreement at that meeting. Prepared and sent that to Charlotte. I don't think it's gone out just yet, but it is ready to roll. Once we get an answer from the licensee, we will then know whether it will go back to y'all for your final approval, or we'll set that one for a hearing. You see a list of complaints that are still pending. There are no hearings scheduled, and as far as the hall appeal, I'm still awaiting a ruling for any kind of direction from Judge Griffin on that case. It's sitting, and I'm not been able to get in touch with opposing counsel on that, and kind of need to, because for those of you that don't know, I now represent the engineer and surveyors board, where Mr. Justin Hall has pending business. So I'm now the man for all things Justin Hall. So I hope, I think I said previously, I hope that to get a ruling from Judge Griffin before the year's out, because he will be leaving office at the end of the year. So I hope that, I would hope to get a ruling from him, since he's the judge for the case, rather than it be sent on to whoever takes up this docket once he leaves the bench. Unless there are any questions from the board, that will conclude my report.
Just on the question on this, new complaints, there's some from January, March, May, June. What's the status of all these complaints? Like, why is, are some of them from January still being, hadn't been vetted yet, or haven't been investigated, or is it still an investigation process? It's just kind of like, my question is, what's the,
That's
What's the stat?
what's the holdup? Is this one from March? You know, we gotta do that pretty quick. Is it a holdup on the workload of Dan? Or is it the inspectors that aren't cooperating?
No, it's me.
Okay.
Because the paper, all I've done is assign numbers, and since this last one, we've actually gotten about 6 more.
Okay.
But it's a lot as far as to get everything ready, so many copies that I have to make, to send 2 copies to the home inspector and also send a letter to the complainant. It's just more involved than I ever had time.
Okay, can we try to make some time, Charlotte? I know you got so much, at least January's, we can get those sent off before the next board meeting.
Yeah, I mean,
We can
I
try to do that.
can do it. I mean, it's just, every time I do one thing, it's something else I'm going behind.
I get the email.
Yeah, but, yeah.
And that's.
Then again, we have allowed them to all leave, and here we are, this is our board work that is not being put first, and we're not serving our constituents as we should be as board members.
That's why I really hope y'all take me seriously on my recommendation.
I mean, that's,
So with that being said, everything that Charlotte does is not just for DOL.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff that she's been dealing with recently, honestly, is ELP and that kind of stuff.
Core business.
So it is board business.
but it seems like if some of these are pretty egregious and they're still out there doing inspections, it's kind of like.
Well,
It seems like they need to be addressed.
I'm beating this horse. I've been on this board the longest. And at one time, we got down to 3 or 4 complaints because they were all worked and taken care of. I'm looking at 12 complaints
6 more in the hopper.
and 6 more in the hopper. That's, we fought that battle, and complaints are one of the main reasons why the backbone of why we're here. And if we don't take care of that in a timely manner, I think as a board, we're being derelict of our duties. With that said,
I had brought like over all these little new things that I have to do as far as each of these folders are different things that I've had to learn to do from DOLL. And a lot of it is done in ACES. It's also by training from Ms. G that she printed out, screenshots and everything to help me with that. But ELP is new. And the things that I have to do in ACES, a lot of those are new. And there's a trip portal that's involved with the deposit. And now the deposits for the credit card. So all of that, it's not a 5-minute job. And it takes time away from me doing other jobs.
So what she's talking about there, deposits and credit card. ELP, they can pay with credit card or bank or whatever. Even though they do that, there's a whole backside of that where she has to do deposits in ACES.
And that's where we could probably have a second person do all of those mundane paper pushing type of jobs. Which is what you're talking about, hiring
I
someone.
don't care who does, but we need help. We need two
Well,
horses.
and this is stuff,
Right.
this is stuff that's just come up last month. Because obviously ELP new. So
Right.
we're just finding this out.
So that's why I'm saying the ELP is definitely positive. It is gonna benefit everyone. However, it's not gonna be, unless we can figure out a way for, it's not gonna be as efficient as we hope from the paper pushing side of her. So that my saving grace along this whole time was that I was thinking ELP was gonna be the, it's bang dynamo and it's gonna solve everything. It's not. It's not.
Same work has to be done.
Yeah, it's not.
This is being done in a different format twice.
And it'll get better. It'll get better.
It will. And, but as I say, if complaints are not being handled,
That's our main.
that's the problem. I don't care if we take on the home inspectors, we have to take care of the complaints because that's what's affecting the public.
Right. Deposits, credit cards.
But again, back to hiring more help. More help is ELP, all that, ISIS, or whatever it is.
To work if it's, I think they should,
They need to know what each other's doing.
Yes. And, we'll shoot the name.
Right. No, they're both.
having a cross-trained person is working together.
That was for the one deposit.
No, no.
For that name.
I mean, I really see the benefit there, however we got to do, whatever we're gonna do.
I worked at a factory where the plant manager got killed on the way down on the highway.
Actually, we're gonna put you in that position.
Yeah, kill me.
And,
Can you hire me?
Yeah.
This was the amount to do the deposit for.
It's not
I
really.
did it, and yesterday she came in and said, I did it wrong. I said, I did it wrong.
What is that from?
And.
What was the- I'm here with the government, I'm with the government up here.
Oh, it's Ronald Reagan.
And she
Yeah.
said
Yeah, yeah, it's Ronald Reagan.
that one deposit.
Most scariest words that's ever heard.
I was
That
at
we
always did do it, my last time, so when we go to
That
the
one.
they did, they had the big push on the drugs.
Yeah.
and all that stuff. They had that frying pan.
Yeah, this is your right.
Yeah.
Bring on drugs. They had that- that big system.
Yeah.
I know there's on YouTube, there's videos.
That's what they have.
Commercials.
Okay, so,
Reagan.
hey guys,
Oh,
so we're back.
Okay.
Regarding the deposits and stuff, credit cards and ELP, I want to talk to Tyler Kane about having his people do this.
Oh, that would be good.
Their finance.
yes, yes,
That should
exactly,
fall under their purview.
exactly.
And they have access to it anyway. So
Right,
that's just one less step.
yes,
And then she could work more on complaints.
yes.
All right. No hearings coming up. Let's talk about new applicants. Since we're talking about ELP, move on to item number 6. New applicants. We have 4 new applicants this week or a month. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve all 4 applicants.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Emmel, you see you're on the line still. Thanks for hanging in for all of that. You've been approved. We will go through ELP today, hopefully, and get that, get your number and all that updated, and then because there's a place on ELP now where you can print off your card, correct?
He already has his number.
I know you already have his number.
But I need to change it from inactive. to
We'll change you from inactive to active, and you'll be good to go, okay? Sorry for the confusion. You're kind of one of the guinea pigs.
Oh, it's okay. I completely understand. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, moving on.
Why do you get this card today, not 10 days ago?
Okay, moving on. Item number 7, continuing education, pre-registered versus WC.
These two McKessicks I looked over, instead of 3 hours, I think they're more suited to 2 hours of continuing credit hours. Now, I asked Charlotte, is this was a reapproval, that these have already been approved for 3 hours, and she didn't understand that. Well,
No, these are new.
these are new courses. I make a motion, we approve these for 2 hours each, online and correspondence. 2 hours of CE credit instead of 3 hours.
I'll second that. I have a second. I have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
I read the paperwork and what they sent in, and I didn't see a full 3 hour credit.
Okay.
In the teaching. What's that word? Synopsis.
Curriculum.
Curriculum. I saw 2 hours of credit.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor of approving these for 2 hours each, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries, these are approved, 2 hours each. Pre-registration.
I did not get this, Charlotte.
That was the one I sent you a couple weeks ago. But I've got it here, and it's a renewal.
It's a renewal of 120 hours.
The old one and the new one, this is the new one, and this old stuff is back there.
2020.
But he didn't have any changes.
This is renewal, so
Yeah, that's the.
we renewed it the last time. I make a motion that we renew World Inspection Network renewal for 120 hours.
I have a motion, to second.
Second.
Second by Dylan, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on. New business, item number 8. Number 1, Ryan Plunkett. Get questions for the board about new licensee working with him. Was he supposed to be on the call? And he's not on the call.
It's probably my fault.
He wasn't on the call before. So we'll have to carry that to the next month if he calls in. We just talked about item number 2, that's additional duties in ACES in regards to acceptance of credit cards and ELP. I'm actually going to ask finance handle this stuff since it is finance. We don't have a finance person, they do.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
No.
Moving on, just information here. ELP actually stopped working on Wednesday, the 28th. As of Friday, it was still not working as it should. What was that in regards to?
We couldn't get the personal information to do.
That's
the
right.
background check.
Couldn't get the personal information, driver's license number, social security number, date of birth, I believe, to do a background check. Are we able to do that now?
Yeah,
Okay.
the background check we're done yesterday.
All right. Y'all have a copy of your Home Inspector Registration Board accomplishments. These were actually requested by the Chief of Staff. These were submitted back on 23rd. I think Charlotte sent everyone an email requesting your input on that as well. I know several of us emailed her back. Do you have any questions about those?
No.
Okay. Also, there's a letter here regarding the list of home inspectors who license have a lap. This is a draft letter. If everyone's good with this, then I'll make a motion, we go ahead and have this sent out.
You entertain.
I can make a motion. Joe told me one time I can make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, you remember the board, you can make as many motions as you want.
I just choose not to most of the time. I like to hear you talk, WC. All right, so I did make a motion, we go ahead and, if everyone, we'll talk about that. Make a motion, we go ahead and follow through with this, have Charlotte send these out to home inspectors whose license have non-renewed or lapsed.
Yes, I agree.
So that's a second. Any discussion?
Charlotte, how's your workload?
All in favor?
Well, I mean, can I send that out
As an email?
to everybody, because it's going to be the same letter.
Absolutely. There's no, I mean, as long as those individuals whose licenses have non-renewed or lapsed, as long as you send it to them as well, that's where their goal.
Yeah.
Then yes. To back that up, we may get some replies from currently licensed inspectors on what to be approved as well. And we're probably gonna get some comments on the apprenticeship program, which I hope we did. All right, all
Covered up for a reason.
in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, Charlotte, go ahead and last email.
And then
Okay.
I'll do it. I'll
Trouble
second.
with it.
But moving on to item number 6, the August MOU is due. We did deny payment approval in July.
I make a motion, we
anyway.
It didn't matter, but anyway.
make a motion, we pay payment for July,
We approve payment for July.
approved payment for July.
What about August?
And on.
And on.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, any discussion?
Yeah,
Even though we did,
this was coming on a monthly basis, and they're saying this is a quarterly basis. How much did they take out in July?
it's just rent. Rent is quarterly.
Yeah.
The other stuff wasn't on the, on there.
So
Or rather, the rent is the only thing that doesn't come up every month. It comes up quarterly. The other stuff comes up every month.
Where's the bill for July?
It was in last month's photo.
Yeah.
We declined it, but it didn't matter. They took it down anyway.
But it's not
Because they had finance.
$2,600 is quarterly.
It's quarterly.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
And they pay
Well,
out
and that-
communication.
That's why,
Yeah.
that's why we brought it up, because it
Yeah.
doesn't say that.
Yeah.
The next quarter, we don't say quarter.
And of course, they don't bill in arrears. They're gonna put it, they're gonna lob it out there first. This quarter.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval for paying July and August MOUs, say aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Number 7 here is really information for y'all. We were talking about the MOUs. This is where they came into play. This is the board's monthly fees before and after transformation. That's this, the invoice stack that Charlotte had for you. Do you have any questions about any of that stuff? So, also, monthly rent, parking fees, all that stuff is in there as well. Couple items that I'm adding to this that I didn't add earlier was Tom Allen is actually gonna pursue doing the research on the revolving door concept. That's what we voted on last month. Excellent. Okay, he's now aware of that, because apparently I didn't tell him last month. Also, last item 10 is apprenticeship program. Joe, what do we need to do to pursue this? Is there legal? I think there is, because I remember Julie saying we couldn't make it mandatory, it had to do voluntary, so what can we do to keep our noses clean, so to speak, and still put it out?
Do you have authority for the statute or for your rules to do this?
No, that was the whole quirk. That was the
That's the,
quirk of all that.
that's what's got it.
And Julie didn't want to take it to the legislature so we could have authority to do it, because they was going through all this transformation.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. Joe, what do we need to get you for you to take this to legislature?
What do we need to do
I,
from what has been done till now? It's been sent. And the wording wrote and all that stuff.
What has been
Julie
sent?
would never kick it on out to the next step. Because
The proposal for the apprenticeship program, I think is all worded. I think it's already drafted. It's there.
well,
You've never
I'm
seen
not-
it.
I have
You're
never
not-
seen it.
It's
I've
never
never
been
seen
brought to Joe's attention. It's been laying closed and dormant because of all that has,
Okay.
and it's not Joe's fault. or-
I'm not saying it's Joe's- it's Joe's fault. Joe, can you get with Jimmy and follow up with that and see what we need to do?
Sure.
Report back to us.
and for my own education, before I just start asking Julie, do you recall if the proposal was going to be legislative or rules?
It was legislated and we, because of, they told us we couldn't do it rule wise.
Okay, and if
And
there
that
is,
was,
if there's no statutory authority, that's probably the case.
I don't know, I brought it all up and I said, we do this, this and this. And everybody was the board, and then Julie came back and said, you can't do that, we gotta go do this to get this, so we can do that. And all this came up and died.
So, and you're talking about pre-transformation. So you're talking
Pre-transformation.
prior to the 2019
Transformation
session.
came up and it kind of took the back.
It took a back seat because
It's collecting dust.
Well,
Do any of the other 29 boards have a apprenticeship? Department of Public
I'm not aware off the top of my head.
Works.
What's that?
That's
Survey?
right. I don't
I
know.
think surveying does.
Honestly.
do what?
Appraisals do. Don't you have apprenticeships?
Apprenticeship, don't have an apprenticeship program, as a matter of fact, you have to have so many hours under.
$2,000.
You have to, it's education and work, but yes, it's an apprenticeship, you have to work under somebody. I have a guy that has been with me now 2.5 years, and I took him from the beginning through licensing and all his classes. And he took his test, and now he's a certified residential appraiser.
So you could look at the appraisal
Surveying,
as well. if you-
I think so.
surveying would be closer because ours is federal. Through the appraisal, all that stuff is set up federal by mandate. We have to accept that.
And y'all are talking about doing a voluntary program, not a mandatory to get
It
your
was never going
license.
to be mandatory, but in that, we were going to make it open for everybody.
I understand that.
Not mandatory, but I'm asking for at least three different, whether the same, different inspector ride-alongs to, because, and I think most of these guys are doing that.
We've got a list
I did too before.
of who would accept trainees from licensed home inspectors who would accept trainees in different parts of the state. We sent out on the renewal one year, would you be willing or interested in helping a trainee write review or whatever? We've got a list of that somewhere. I don't know.
I've got it.
The
Well, it's
American,
all the pages that they
Okay.
sent back.
Go ahead.
the American Society of Home Inspectors tried this a few years ago. They just couldn't get enough interest in other people training their competition.
Yeah. Joe, just report back to us next week.
I'll talk to Julie and see what she has.
Old business, item number 9. Website updates, issues, comments, EOP we're working through. The search function on the main homepage will not be completely working until we do the migration, like your Kensation migration, data migration should be done by next week.
I will, I'll be continuing to monitor this. And then after the migration, I'll kind of keep track of stuff and communicate with the board and or Mr. Anderson as needed. And just ask that everybody gives us a little time, we'll get it there.
Item number 10, Charlotte.
All I have is weekly reports still going on every Friday. And, insurance expiration letters for October were mailed on September 19th. That's all I have.
Okay, we have one renewal this month. Yes, it is October. He has completed, he's been out for 2 years. He's got a completed 28 hours total. Certificates are here. Insurance certification. He just changes that, put his home address on there, sure. You want to look at this?
And he did send him to home inspection report.
And home inspection reports are here.
He emailed them.
He emailed them. Anyway, he's completed everything. He set through CE class with me last week.
You're the chairman. If you say it's in there, I make a motion, we approve it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Johnny Fortenberry, home inspector number 1839 has been renewed for the year 2022. All right, schedule next meeting. November 2nd, right here, 9:30.
Good.
Anybody have anything else?
Got a question.
Yes.
In our rules and everything, did they go through and legislation be reworded from registration to licensing?
I think it was, yeah, actually, you were dealing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did.
that's all done.
Yeah, that was approved. Well, it was actually proposed legislation that we've sent off to the governor's office and they have it and it'll be going through this next session.
Okay, so it's not approved.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
if it were a rule, it would have been one part of a rule improvement, but this is an actual legislative change, which is about to start in January, so. and it's
Okay.
been sent off to the governor's office.
I thought I remembered something about that, but I hadn't seen anything change. It's like, where are we on that? I just wanted to
Yeah, the
clarify.
session starts January.
Right, so then we will then change our name to the Arkansas Home Inspector Licensing Board.
Yes.
So our website has to change to AH.
Yeah, we'll need to take care of it.
RD.
We talked about that.
Okay.
We want all that to go through first.
Yeah, okay.
And that's never a guarantee with any legislation.
I'm
so-
sorry, one more time, your name, sir,
Miles Morgan,
and you are,
I'm an attorney
He's the
here.
office right
to-
next door. so
Yeah,
here's
here's
us
just
anyway.
an assistant attorney. Dan, as you all met earlier, he's who took over Denise. Dan's the new chief legal counsel, so,
For the park collector lots.
yeah.
He's the assistant.
I'm sorry this meeting took so long.
No, it's fine. You know, I've been looking, I watch boards too, because I have some boards that I have to work with and, you know, it's all a learning experience I've been here for like 8 months, so I'm still trying to get the administrative law thing down. I was a prosecutor before this, so it's totally difficult. I'm sure. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Any faces in here look familiar?
No.
Like, very fast.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Till next month. Your meeting.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Right here.